Hello guys, welcome to a new video on Tower of God New World. And in this video, I'm going to do the character review for David. I'm sorry I haven't uploaded any videos in the past days. I was on a business trip and I didn't really find the time to record anything. I will be releasing the character review for you as well today or latest tomorrow. Definitely before the start of next week, because on Monday or Tuesday, we're going to get the kit reveals for Heljo and Okni. I don't know if they're going to split them like they did for Hugo and David. We'll see. But yeah, definitely during the kit reveal for Heljo, I'm also going to mention whether you should be going for Hugo or wait for Heljo release, in case you are one of those that still have doubts on whether they should be pulling for Hugo or not. Unfortunately, it's still going to be like mostly speculation because during the kit reveal they only show like the base kit without percentages, and they don't give any information on this use equipment or the revolution. So it's going to be again just trying to guess how good it's going to be based off of the base kit. And yeah, that's more or less the idea. I will again now talk about the character review for David. We're going to go over the usual points. So I'm going to talk about how good this unit is. Then we're going to look at the skills, revolution, equipment, gear, ignition, weapon, rapport, and finally some team recommendations. I will start immediately with the first point. So how good is David? I will say David is a really good support to have. I have a few issues with him that I'm going to mention again in this section. The first one is that he doesn't have any crowd controls and he doesn't have any debuffs. So that's a bit annoying. Like he's mainly a buffer for your team, and then he has some utility. It's going to decrease the enemy energy, even though it's very slight decrease. It's going to cleanse the debuffs on your team, which is really good, and also going to provide more energy for your team. So that's definitely something good to have. But it's not really going to like do anything against the enemy team. There is not going to block their actions. It's not going to do like apply debuffs or anything really great. The energy decrease I mentioned before is very, very small and it won't really have a major impact on the enemy performance. So it's kind of whatever. Still, with all of that, he has a really solid kit. He's definitely not worthless. He's really, really good unit. I think at the moment he doesn't have any insane synergies. There are a couple that are pretty good, but he doesn't have a main DPS that really wants him at the moment. Mostly because his kit seems to be very specific. Like he has a lot of nice buffing, but they all want a very specific unit that we don't really have in the game at the moment. So we're going to talk about that once we read the kit, but I don't know. At the moment, he's insane. He has a lot more future potential once a very dedicated DPS unit comes out, which could even be next week. We'll see. So yeah, at the moment, definitely a really good support, but not insane, not game changing. That's my opinion on this unit at the moment. I would say we can have a look at the skills. So I'm also going to provide some more information in general. And I'm also going to talk about Revolution in the meantime because there is really not much to it. So for the passive, this guy has a passive similar to BAM. He's going to regen energy to all nearby allies every 5 seconds. And the restore amount is 100 plus 50 from the exclusive equipment. So it's 150. BAM restores 200. So this is a bit lower, I would say. And the second part of the pass is more or less irrelevant. It's a 40% damage taken decrease. Fine, whatever, doesn't matter. Then we have the Revolution 5 that is going to increase nearby allies' attack and defense by 30% for 10 seconds every time he uses the passive. So every 5 seconds he's going to add a stack. And there is a max of 5 stacks, so up to 150% attack and defense increase. Unfortunately, these can be removed and it takes like 20 seconds to apply the whole 150%. So if you're not facing Anniversary Iwa, Garam, or Hugo, or Urek, then you are kind of okay. You're going to get to these 150% eventually. But if you're facing one of those, then this is pretty much worthless, kind of. So yeah, that's also one of the reasons why I'm not too excited about this, even though it is a really, really good effect to have. Then we have the first active skill. This is pretty basic. It's going to give 200 energy to your highest attack unit, so your DPS, and it's going to give them a skill attack coefficient increase by 100% for 10 seconds. This is going to be really, really good if you have multi-hit attacks. So this is one of the first requirements. The DPS you're buffing needs to have multi-hit attacks. If they're doing most of your damage with a single hit, then this 100% will feel very shitty. So that's one thing to consider. And also the 200 energy is not really that massive. This is half the amount that an array provides. So yeah, it's still okay, but not insane. Then we have the second active skill. This is going to apply a buff to himself for 8 seconds, plus 4 from the exclusive equipment. And then he's going to have an improvement on the basic attacks that are going to deal more damage. That part is pretty much worthless. But he's also going to reduce the enemy energy by 80. So this is really, really nice. But again, the amount on the enemies is not really going to be that noticeable. The exclusive equipment is also going to turn this 80 into steel. So like this energy decrease into steel, which means he's going to cast the special move more frequently, and that could be good. Not that insane, but definitely good. So yeah, this is a bit of a weak ability. Then we have the special move. It's going to create a zone for 7 seconds, plus 5 from the exclusive equipment. So again, 12 seconds duration. And it's going to remove debuffs on all allies when creating it. Well, the allies in the zone. The area of the zone is the same as the passive. So it's not really that big. I mean, it is acceptable. If the units are ranged, then they're going to be within it, more or less. If they're close range, then probably not. But okay. So he's going to remove debuffs on allies. That's pretty nice. And all allies within the zone are going to receive a blessing for 5 seconds. So even if they're leaving the zone, they're still going to have the blessing for 5 seconds, which is going to increase their attack by 120% while using the special move. So it's only for special move based DPS units, which again is an additional restriction. You want the unit to be ranged so that they are close to you and you apply both this effect and the passive. They need to have multi-hits so that they get more benefits out of the other active skill, and they need to do most of their damage based on the special move. So these are all like different requirements. Then he also has the evolution that increases the physical appearance of allies with the blessing by 40%, which is yet another sort of restriction, let's say. So if you can find a unit that benefits from all of these points, then that's amazing. And I would say at the moment, we mainly have Joaquin that really benefits from all of them. Vivi as well could benefit from most of them. But Joaquin, again, is close range, so he's not really getting the benefits most of the times, but he moves so frequently that maybe you can get it. If you like, if Joaquin was ranged, then it would have been massive, but no. So at the moment, the best user of David's kit is going to be Dalwon at the current moment. But yeah, that's more or less it. So the last part I didn't read about the special move is that all allies within the zone are immune to debuffs. So he's going to cleanse them, and then the enemies cannot reapply them while the zone lasts and while the allies are inside of it. That's going to be really, really good. So yeah, that's basically the kit and also the revolution upgrades. I'm still going to open the revolution menu just so that we can talk about the subnodes as well. But as for most SSR units, you don't really want to go with any of the subnodes. I would say effect resistance is a nice one to have, just to have more guarantees of like resisting crowd controls. Because for debuffs, we don't really care with Davis kit, but at least for the crowd controls. So yeah, that's all I would tell you guys to upgrade. It's going to be pretty cheap. So yeah, it's not a big deal. Then for the exclusive equipment, we already mentioned all the effects, but let's read it again. For the magic resistance, we don't really care. Supports already have a ton of it, so you probably already overcap it. Then we have the effects for level 1. We have the +4 to the active skill. That is going to buff your basic attacks. It's going to take it from 8 to 12. Then we have the +5 seconds to the special move, taking it from 7 to 12. Then we have the level 3, changing the effect of the basic attack energy decrease into energy steal, which is again going to make it so David can cast the special move a bit more frequently. And then for level 4, we have the plus 50 to the passive energy restoration. That's all there is to the exclusive equipment. Is a really good one overall. Like, all of these effects are nice. They're not insane, but they're definitely pretty good. Then we have the gear. For the gear, if you're using resistances because you're still at a deficit where resistances apply, then slot 4 is really good. The other ones, not really. Like, you don't really care too much about accuracy because the only effect that applies to enemies is going to be the energy decrease from the basic attacks. So that's going to be okay, nice to have, but I wouldn't stress too much about it. The crit rate and crit damage, absolutely worthless. Evasion and accuracy, again, accuracy, only if you feel like you need the extra energy on the enemies, is not really going to be too impactful. And evasion, if you're running an evasion build, then yeah, that's definitely going to be a bit helpful. And yeah, for the gear, that's all. For the ignition weapon, I will say Barry is the best one. You don't really have a lot of other options. You could always go Runda, you could always go Doris, you could always go Rafflesia. But I would say those are more for like lower deficits. At higher deficits, Barry is your only options, and in general, 99% of the supports will run Barry. So that's kind of what you want to go for. In terms of stats, it's just a plain resistance build. If, again, you're running resistances, if you're running evasion, you could go for slot 4 with effect resistance. That could be pretty good as well. And for this one, it doesn't really matter. There are not really a lot of good options. So yeah, I would say the main stats don't really matter too much. At a certain point, you just want to have the 4-piece bar effect, and the rest is just whatever you can find. So yeah, for ignition weapon, that's it. For the report, I will say the same reasoning as before. If you need the extra accuracy because you care about the extra energy provided by the basic attacks, that's good, but it's not a super reliant unit on accuracy. You don't apply crowd controls on the enemies, you don't apply debuffs, you don't really care too much if you're hitting them or not. So definitely you can stop at level 4 with the additional swiftness, and that's it. Now for team recommendations, let's go over the arena simulation so we can have a quick talk about that. And as I mentioned, the best user of David's kit is going to be Dawn because she's a physical damage dealer. She has damage based on the special move, so the special move is basically 99% of her damage, and she's going to get a lot of buffs from what David provides. She won't really leverage all of it because she doesn't have a lot of multi hits. She has a few, but nothing insane. So that part of the skill coefficient is not really going to be that insane, but she's going to enjoy the extra energy, the extra attack, and the extra physical pierce. So really good user, but again, not using 100% of David's kit. Still the best one we have currently. Obviously, if you're still early on, you could always run Joaquin or Vivi or whatever we mentioned before. That also applies. But yeah, I would say again, Dawn is going to be your best bet. And then the rest of the units, you just deploy them based on Dawn. You don't really care about David in that case, so you can just go, I don't know, we're just trying some random shit. We could do something like this, for example. It would provide more energy from Bam and him, and then we have Leroro for additional attack. Not really too important. Maybe we could add Hieran here just for the extra grouping, at which point maybe we could do something like this. Doesn't matter, but make sure to build the rest of the team towards like Dawn and not really care about David. Now, the other use case you could use David for is again as a replacement to Bam, but keep in mind Bam is going to provide more energy overall compared to David because he has 200 every 5 seconds. Plus, every time he uses the special move, he also regens 100 more for all allies. So the energy regen that Bam provides is a step above David, but you could use David as sort of a replacement. He's not going to be, again, the best, but definitely usable. Otherwise, what you could also do is use them together. so that they're going to provide to the two units in these two positions, and well, okay, one of them also to this one, if they're ranged, a lot of energy. Like every 5 seconds, 350 plus the 200 to the highest attack plus the 100 to everyone. That's going to be a lot of energy region. You could then place an Evan here, and this guy will have a 100% uptime on the special move, even if your swiftness is not that high. That's definitely good. You could even run, I don't know, an anniversary Evo if you want to. So she's going to cast the special move a lot more frequently. It's not going to be as insane as linking Mama Nak to anniversary Evo, but I would say is quite nice. You could also go for, again, maybe a rank for grouping. She's going to group all the time. Stuff like that. You can try and experiment with whichever unit you want. Well, let's say we keep Evan. An additional unit you could have is also Garam, because Garam, every time she uses the special move, if you have Revolution, she's going to give 200 energy to everyone, which, again, we can already see we have a lot of units feeding energy back to back to back, so they will always be spamming everything. Also, Evan is giving some energy, but is mostly doing that with the active skills, so it's not going to be that reliable. But yeah, definitely these three together are going to be insane at providing energy. So both Garam and this guy and Evan will have the special moves up all the time. Now for the last slot, you can just, I don't know, use a DPS unit if you have it. Maybe an add-on could work here as well, even though we don't have grouping, but that's okay. Or you could use literally, guys, whatever you want. You could run maybe even a random white for some reason. If it's ranged and can go with David, would be better, but looking at the current composition, they're not really, like, David is not going to do much to the other units unless you place him here. And then here we have a ranged DPS unit like a Dawn. Then she would get the benefits from David as well. She wouldn't get the energy from Bam except for the special move one. But yeah, definitely something you can do. Unfortunately, here you don't have a lot of blue units, so she's not going to get a lot of benefits from the passive, but it would still be quite acceptable. So yeah, for the last lot, you just fill it with whatever you need as a DPS, and this would be already a pretty good team comp. So yeah, this just to provide some context, some ideas on what you could be doing. Definitely overlapping these two effects is nice. 350 every 5 seconds is really a lot. So yeah, definitely a nice little combo here. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you feel about David, if you agree with what I said, if you feel like I underestimated him, if you feel like I overestimated him. Let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.